So you're thinking about buying your first home. First of all, let's go. That is awesome. It is a total game changer, and you're going to be so glad that you did. But before you dive into the process, there's a lot that you need to know. I know it can be intimidating up front, but you already know it's possible to buy a home. Your family members, your friends, and the strangers that you forgot you even connected with on Facebook seem to have all pulled it off. You have seen their celebratory closing photos. So today, I'm going to break down everything that you need to know as a first-time homebuyer. Let's get into it. Hey, I'm Danny Barron with the Barron Group, and I know firsthand that buying your first home can feel a bit overwhelming. There's the financing, the negotiations, the inspection, and let's be honest, just a whole lot of paperwork. Not to mention, every market is different when it comes to buying or selling a home, and the strategies that you use completely change. But don't worry. My team has sold over $250 million worth of real estate in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, and Dayton, and we're here to break it all down for you. Give us just a few minutes of your time today, and you will be ready to rock the real estate market. And dare I say it, if you choose to work with us, you might even have some fun along the way. This is going to be a simple step-by-step guide so that you feel confident about the real estate purchase process. And stick around until the end because I will share some of the most common mistakes that first-time homebuyers make so that you can avoid them. Let's roll. Step 1 is understanding your budget and financing. Look, before you start scrolling Zillow at midnight, looking at homes completely outside of your budget, let's at least talk about the numbers. The first step in buying a home is figuring out what you can afford and getting pre-approved for a mortgage. So what should actually be included when you're considering your budget for purchasing your first home? Number 1, and you probably know this, is your down payment. This typically ranges from 3% up to 20% of the home's price, and it depends on the loan type. You're going to have a unique loan type depending on your financial situation and the lender that you're working with. But the main point here is that you need to have a down payment saved up, whether you're using a conventional FHA, VA, or other type of loan. As I said, that down payment is going to need to be a minimum of 3 to 5%. So plan accordingly and know that there are benefits as that down payment number goes up. Number 2 is closing costs. You can expect to pay about 2% to 5% of the home's price for closing costs. Now, it's important to know that around here in this area of Greater Cincinnati, it's expected that you as a buyer will be the one paying for these closing costs. These will be for things like lender fees, title insurance, and more. Now, you've likely heard over the years people say they made the seller pay their closing costs. And I know that sounds amazing. Like, how do we pull that off so that they pay for it and we don't have to? The reality is that it's much easier to pull that off on some houses than others. However, we're in a competitive housing market right here in the Cincinnati area, and many homes have multiple offers because of the low home inventory available around here. In order to submit what we would call as realtors a strong and clean offer on the home you love, we would really recommend saving the money to cover your own closing costs. However, you can ask the seller to cover them. I just want you to be aware of this fact. Asking the seller to cover them will come out of how much that seller makes or their net proceeds. They will make less money if they pay for your closing costs. Simply put, your $300,000 offer is actually a $295,000 offer when you're asking for $5,000 in closing costs. So if you're going to ask for closing costs, you're actually negotiating down on the price. Hopefully that helps to simplify this entire closing cost thing for you. In the right situation, asking for closing costs can be great, but we want you to know what a seller is looking at as well. Number 3 is your monthly mortgage payment. So this could be known as PITI, and that stands for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, which are the 4 components of a typical mortgage payment. Now, a mortgage payment sounds a lot like a monthly rent payment, right? It just happens to come with the benefit of buying you a home instead of throwing money into the rent hole. It's the best thing ever. You're actually getting some equity on the home. So let's quickly run down your monthly payment so that you know what is included. Again, that's PITI. The P stands for principal. Principal refers to the portion of the mortgage payment that goes towards paying off the original loan balance. The I stands for interest. Interest is the cost of borrowing money paid to the lender as a percentage of the loan balance. No one likes this, besides the lender, of course, but it's a part of getting a loan. And since it's a part of your payment, you can see why people spend so much time talking about interest rates. They want them to be as low as possible so that this monthly payment can be as low as possible when you borrow money for a house. The T stands for taxes. Taxes include property taxes, which are often collected by the lender and paid on behalf of the homeowner to local government authorities. Simple enough. And finally, the I stands for insurance. Insurance covers homeowners insurance, which protects your property against damage, as well as potentially private mortgage insurance if applicable. PMI is an additional fee that's typically added to a loan where a borrower did not put 20% down on their loan. I mentioned before that putting more money down on a house does have benefits, and this is one of the big ones, not having PMI. It would be normal to save between $50 and $150 a month on a payment by not having to pay for private mortgage insurance. And number 4 for considering your budget and finances are the ongoing homeownership costs. Now, think about the fact that when you buy this house, there will be maintenance when things break. There will be costs of utilities like gas, electric, and water, and potentially even homeowners association fees depending on where you buy. Needless to say, you don't want to spend all of your money when you're buying your home because these additional costs become very real once you've made the purchase. Budget accordingly. Now, let's chat about getting pre-approved. Before you even start looking around and shopping, please talk to a lender and get pre-approved or pre-qualified. We have a full video linked for you in the corner about getting pre-approved, and it just happens to be with our preferred lender that we trust with the process. Check it out and let it rip. And trust me, when you find your dream home, having that pre-approval letter in hand gives you a major advantage when you don't have to start scrambling to get pre-approved the day of when you want to write an offer. It's a competitive market, so get pre-approved and be quick. Do yourself a favor, get it done now. Now that we've talked a lot of details on the budget and financing side, let's get into the second step, which is finding the right home. So where are you going to see houses that are hitting the market? Likely you've already started scoping a website. Maybe it's one of your favorites by now, a Zillow or a Redfin. And I actually want to encourage you to continue looking on those websites. However, in addition, we would love to encourage you to work with a realtor to set up a search portal for you on the local MLS system. The MLS is where realtors list all homes for sale, and it will be the quickest and most accurate source of information for you in this process. As realtors, the information on this MLS is almost literally our lives. And as your agent, I want you plugged into it. That means whenever a home with your criteria and your budget hits the market, I want an email in your inbox with a link to see it. Once you click that link, you can check out the photos. And if you're interested, we can move quickly and get you scheduled for a tour. When you are both pre-approved and set up on a great search portal, I like to say that you're dangerous. And what do I mean by that? Basically, I mean you could purchase a home at any time. If the right home pops up on your portal, you might just be under contract to buy that perfect home within 24 hours. Dangerous. Now, a few quick things to comment on when finding the right home. I do want to touch on the must-haves versus the nice-to-haves. Here's what I have found, and this is just totally from my brain as a realtor that's worked with a ton of people to buy homes around here. There are probably about 10 things that you could put on a list that you would really, really like to have in your next home. I have found that when people try to justify, let's call it 6 or less of those things are on a house or in a house that they want to purchase, and they're trying to get themselves excited about it, they find that to be really difficult. If you have like 7 or 8 of those things on your list that are in the house and you're seeing the listing and you're excited to go, that's a house that might work out for you. But I have found that typically if houses have 9 or 10 of the things on that must-have or even kind of that want list, that's when you're going to be really excited to submit an offer on that property. That is not gospel. That is not science. That is just my experience. If it's 7 or less of those things, probably take that as a sign that maybe it's not the right house. And if it has 8 or more, maybe we should get pretty serious. Another piece of this is going to be location. Location is a huge deal. And where you live in a city with proximity to the things that you want to go to for your family or your friends, the activities you're involved in, there is going to be nothing more important than where this house is. And you also want to think about the long term. When you go to sell this house, is this location desirable for the next buyer, or is that something that's going to detract and make it difficult to sell this home in the long term? You get to decide where you want to live, but those are things we want you to think about ahead of time. And a quick note about home buying and working with a realtor. Please know that as you enter this season, a good realtor is going to help you navigate the process every step of the way. You should absolutely never be lost or wondering what's next when you're pursuing buying a home. Your realtor should know the process, negotiate the best deal, and keep you from making emotional decisions because trust me, it happens when we're in the heat of the moment. The entire job of a realtor is to give you all of the information to make the best decision for your family. It's not our job to make you buy a house or to shove paperwork in your face. It's our role to advise you and provide all the information where you will have excitement and peace of mind when you make a home purchase. We would love for the Barron Group to be that real estate team of choice for you, so let's talk when you're ready to make a move. Now let's jump into step number 3, making an offer and negotiating. All right, you found the house. Now it's time to make an offer. But this is where things can get tricky, especially in a competitive market. So what goes into an offer? Here's the best analogy that I can use for you when it comes to writing an offer. It's a little bit like baking a cake. A cake is going to have a ton of different ingredients. And if one of those ingredients is really bad, the cake might not be great. But if all those ingredients are really good, the cake is going to be fantastic. And for a seller, it's very similar. If you hand them an offer that has really bad terms that you weren't aware of, it might not be very compelling and you might lose out on your dream home. So the basis of the offer, of course, is what is the purchase price going to be? But that is a very broad statement because when you get into the details, an offer is also going to have to do with what type of loan you have, what down payment you have, if you're offering earnest money or a good faith deposit up front. And our recommendation on an earnest money is to make it 1% of the purchase price that you're offering if you're in a competitive situation. On top of earnest money, you're going to have to decide how competitive you want to be on inspections. Are you asking for a full home inspection? Are you going to get a limited home inspection, maybe an as-is home inspection? These are all things you're going to have to navigate with your realtor. On top of this, the offer in the purchase contract actually has opportunities for you to ask for more things of the seller. You could ask for certain things in the home. You could ask for them to help pay for a home warranty. You could ask for them to help pay for your title insurance. And these are all things that would come out of the seller's bottom line. So when your realtor is filling out this contract and you're making these decisions, just be aware that all of these pieces that go into the offer do matter. And if you want to put the best offer in front of the seller, let's make sure we're asking them the questions before we ever write it. A simple call to the other realtor to say, hey, what is the seller looking for on this offer might work to your advantage. And lastly, 2 of the most important pieces would be your closing date and also your occupancy date. Did you know that you can purchase and close on a home and still let the seller live there for a little bit after closing so that they can move out and move to their next destination? Sometimes that's the kicker that's going to be the winner for you on an offer if you're willing to be flexible on that timeline. So those are just a few of the things that are going to go into the offer. My main point is this: it is more than just a purchase price. Now, if you are in a competitive real estate market and a hot real estate market where there are multiple offers on properties, you might need some ways to help your offer stand out. And at the end of the day, that is our job, is to advise you on how to make your offer look better than the rest. Let's get into a couple of the terms that might really matter to a seller. Number 1, yes, we do need to have the highest purchase price, but we've got a tool to help you get there. I call it the eBay bid of home buying, and it is called the escalation clause. An escalation clause is simply this: you can give the seller the price that you're willing to pay for their home. Oftentimes in a competitive situation, it might be the list price, and then you can write an escalation clause up to a cap number. For instance, you could tell a seller, I'm willing to buy your home for $300,000, but I will beat all other offers by $3,000 up to $320,000. Now let's say the sellers have another offer at $310,000. Your offer would automatically become $313,000. Why is that important? It's because you didn't have to bid all the way to $320,000. You're telling the seller, I'm willing to pay more and I'm going to beat other people while also protecting yourself from overpaying on your house. A very simple tool that has saved our people tons of money over the years. And a quick note on purchase prices around here before we get into the further terms. A purchase price as of right now in this city is expected to be between 98 and 104% of the asking price. So if a home is listed at $300,000, the statistics would show us right now there's a good chance it's going to go above. Remember this about purchase prices. When a house is listed, that number, that sale price, is made up by a realtor and a seller to make a competitive strategy for their home. So do not be afraid to go above that purchase price if needed. The home could still be worth it. They just happen to list it a little low. Now, in addition to a really solid purchase price or a high escalation clause, I have 2 other ways that really can help an offer stand out. And number 1 is an appraisal gap. And number 2 would be getting really aggressive on your inspection terms. Now listen, both of these could have an entire video on their own, probably 30 minutes long, so I'll break them down really simply. If you have enough money where on top of your down payment, you might be able to sustain some extra cash down, an appraisal gap is something you could use to really sweeten an offer for a seller. If you want more details on that, let's chat. It is not always a bad thing, and sometimes it's needed to help you win a house that you love. Now, on inspections, there are many different options, from a full inspection to a limited or as is or even a waived inspection. I'm going to tell you this. I have personally done all of these options when I have bought properties, rental properties, and personal properties alike that I'm going to live in. There's going to be something different that's going to make sense for you. It's going to be house dependent, and we're always going to have a strategy for you on how to be aggressive with inspections. But I do want you to know, above all else in this video, that price, appraisal gaps, or cash financing and inspections are probably the most important things to a seller when they're considering your offer and multiple offers. Now, we've gone into a lot of details about writing an offer, but I want to give you one final and very simple point that can oftentimes go a long way. You have the option to write a personal letter to the seller about why you love their home. Now, I know this might sound a little bit cheesy, but I can promise you it works. I have personally seen time and time again with my own sellers and with our own buyers that when two offers are put in front of a human being, which is what all sellers are, and one of them comes with a story and one does not, if those offers are the same, people love a story, and especially if they love that you love their home and they hear that and see that from you, they might be more likely to go with your offer. It's not a foolproof plan, but I do call that pulling out all the stops when you decide to write a letter. Now, lucky for you, I gave you a brief glimpse into the appraisal and home inspection process in the previous section because we wanted you to know they were important about competition when writing your offer. But let's get into the details of these items just a little bit more. Step number 4 is the home inspection and appraisal. Once your offer is accepted, you are allowed to be excited, but don't celebrate crossing the finish line just yet. We've got a few major checkpoints before closing, and home inspections and the appraisal are the two big ones. The home inspection is where a professional inspector is going to come into this home that is hired by you to check for any issues with the home: roof, plumbing, electrical, foundation, and many more. If there are problems, you may be able to identify these with the home inspector, negotiate repairs, or negotiate credits with the seller. A great home inspector is going to get you a full report that sometimes might be 30, 40, 50, or even more pages with photos of the issues that they found and descriptions of what those issues are. If there are things that are really concerning, you may then have time in your inspection period, which is typically about 7 to 10 days because we've put that in your contract, to contact other necessary contractors to come in and look. So let's say they find an issue with some plumbing stuff. You're going to have time to bring a plumber in and get an official quote on the issues that they found with the plumbing. That could go for a roofer or an HVAC company or any issues that you might find. You can then use that knowledge to decide, is this a home we're willing to purchase based on the repairs that need to be made, or are we able to negotiate this with the seller? As I said in the previous section, there are going to be tons of times where a seller might not be willing to make those repairs, and it's better for you to be competitive and say that you're going to take care of them. But sometimes the benefits do not outweigh the risk, and if there is too much going on with the home where you do not feel comfortable, you might not want to move forward. A great realtor is going to help you navigate this inspection period, and I personally think it's one of the most important parts of their job. Typically, once you get through the inspection period and you know that you are moving forward to purchase the home, whether that is negotiating that with the seller or you just decide that you're okay with what was found, you're going to have your lender order the appraisal. Now, I touched on this briefly, but if you are financing a home, your lender's going to require an appraisal to confirm the home's value. If this appraisal comes in lower than your offer price, you may need to either renegotiate or bring extra cash to closing. Sometimes in different markets, you may see a seller that drops their price to that appraised value so they can still sell their home, but other times the seller might be a little bit stubborn and they're not going to be willing to do that. This is a chance where if either party needs to separate because this number is just too different from the appraisal to the purchase price, then this is where some real estate deals do go to die. But oftentimes people are willing to get flexible and you can get the deal done. And finally, on this journey of purchasing a home, we come to step number 5, which is closing the deal. Once you've gotten past the home inspection, the home has appraised and you're approved for the loan, you're clear to close, and it's now time for closing. AKA, you signing a stack of papers that officially make you a homeowner. So what will happen to get to closing? First of all, you are likely going to do a final walkthrough with your realtor at the property. This is a last check to ensure everything is in order. And as I remind everyone, it's good to make sure that the home hasn't burned down or some crazy disaster hasn't happened before you sign away on likely the biggest purchase of your life so far. Once you've completed this walkthrough, you're going to sign your loan documents. Oftentimes, this is with a title representative. It's going to be your mortgage agreement, your title paperwork, and more. And you're typically going to be in the room with the seller signing all of these papers unless they are signing from out of state. You're going to pay the closing costs, and this includes lender fees, title insurance, and prepaid taxes, as we discussed. But this is all going to be on one final sheet of paper called the Alta statement. This is great because you're going to see everything from the money that you're paying for all of the costs, the expenses, the realtor fees, all of these closing costs. in one place on a piece of paper, and it will show you at the bottom what you owe. You will likely have already been to your bank that day and have wired the money on that exact number from the title company, but you're going to review this statement, as is your agent, at the closing and make sure that all the numbers look good. For my accountants out there, you're going to love this piece of paper. And once you've signed all of those papers, congratulations, you officially get the keys and you are now a homeowner. Before we finish this video, we did promise that we wanted to point out some of the common first-time home buyer mistakes to avoid. And before I get into this, we do have another video about home buyer mistakes if you want to check that out before you get into this whole process. But here are a few that we wanted to bring to your attention right now. Number one is not getting pre-approved early enough. I know I talked about this, but I'm going to bring it up one more time because you're going to be in a situation where you're not approved yet. A house you love is going to pop up and you're going to find yourself scrambling. Please don't find yourself in that situation. Get pre-approved early and do it as soon as you know that you're ready to buy a house. Number two is ignoring additional costs. Your mortgage payment isn't the only expense. So once you've purchased your home, as I said earlier in the video, factor in your taxes, insurance, and maintenance. You never know when something in your home might break, and we want you to be equipped with the funds to take care of it when it does. Number three is making an uninformed decision about a home inspection. And some people might say that the quick tip here is to not waive your home inspection. I'm here to tell you that for some people, waiving the home inspection actually might be the right choice, but you need to find out if that is for you. So for your family, let's make an informed decision based on the options about a home inspection to make it compelling for the seller, but also wise for your family. Number four, and my last one for you here, is letting emotions take over. I know that this process is going to seem daunting up front, but truly, believe me when I say this, it can be really fun, and you can make a decision that is fantastic for where you are in life right now. A great home is going to be a great investment long-term, so don't let the highs be too high and the lows be too low. Let's keep a level head and partner yourself with people who are going to have your best interest in mind. Buying your first home is a big deal, but with the right knowledge and preparation, you can make it a smooth and exciting process. And dare I say it, we want it to be one of the most fun things you ever do. If you found this video helpful, let us know in the comments. And if you're ready to start your home search, reach out. We would love nothing more than to help guide you through the process. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel below for more content about Greater Cincinnati, and I will see you in the next one.